Brannon House.
And welcome. Glad you are with us. Going to be joined today by Andy Woods. Hey, I guess there's something going on in Arizona. Turning Point USA is having their conference. I know several people that are there, and it was all over social media last night. Speeches by Tucker Carlson, speeches by Ben Shapiro. And, you know, I'm going to play a clip or two today and have Dr. Woods respond. But it seems like the conservative movement is being systematically dismantled. And I have a hard time understanding how this isn't absolutely coordinated to do just that. As we discussed with Bill Federer last week in our segment on propaganda and how you, dismantle coalitions, take away their ability to win elections or win on all kinds of very important issues, and certainly for our country, Christian issues and constitutional issues. So we're going to play some clips and get a response, and then talk about some of the things in the Middle East. Now, apparently, they found the guy that killed the students at Brown University and the MIT professor. Does anyone think this whole thing smells really weird? Why is it that almost every time we have a shooting and people are killed, it's not cut and dry, that there's always conspiracy around it? I guess that seems to be the standard now. And a lot of people are questioning this whole thing as well. A student comes back decades later, that's what we're being told, and then goes after the professor. Well, why did he go after the students in that room? And why are we being told that there was specifically going after the young lady, the conservative, the Christian? That's what people are saying. Now, I wasn't there. I don't know. But some people are saying that she seemed to be specifically targeted. Why would this individual have any animosity toward her? And it apparently took a homeless man to tell him, hey, you might want to look into this color car. And he put that out there on something called Reddit or something. I don't know. The whole thing just is really odd. But I'm not... let's just say, I think you're going to see more of this. I think you're going to see more and more people, unfortunately, that have crimes committed against them, and the circumstances around it leave everybody asking a lot of questions. But that's how the deep state and the dark power elite and the government folks and the dark intelligence world, I think that's how, and perhaps maybe that's not even who did it. Maybe it's some group overseas. I don't know. Maybe it's all the above, enemies foreign and domestic, but it just seems to always be shrouded in some kind of conspiracy theory. And then, of course, when you start questioning all the odd surroundings, that's what you get called a conspiracy theorist. But nothing's ever just, hey, this is what it is. It's clean and cut case. Here it is. Always so confusing and divisive. And isn't, again, that the goal? Everything is divisive today. Everything. There's hardly an issue that we're not touched as individuals, from our churches to the local news, to the state news, to the federal news, to the issue of just common sense healthcare. You go to a emergency room for treatment today, and you're going to sit for 8, 10, 12 hours, and you still may never be seen. Everywhere you turn, there is hostility and division. And maybe that's just what happens when God finally gives over a nation and a world, is that you have more and more confusion. Well, Romans 1, a nation of fools, vain, useless, futile. And if you have a lot of fools in a lot of key places, then that's what you get. A lot of vain, useless outcomes. Vain, useless, and futile. So I think maybe instead of getting frustrated by it, we should try to understand it and also set our minds to accept that that's the way it is now. And that's part of judgment of a nation. Going now to Dr. Andy Woods. Dr. Woods, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Brandon, good to be here. Thanks for having me.
All right, let's go to Turning Point USA. Logan, do we have the first clip? Let's go to the one about I don't know. Which one do you think first? Just go to one. But you've cleaned them all up, right? Yeah. Okay, here we go. Here's Tucker Carlson at Turning Point USA in Phoenix. Here we go.
We should also be very on guard against people who try to leverage the word of God, the words of Jesus, for political ends.
Okay, can we stop right there? Stop right there. Do it right back up. We don't want to miss anything. Leverage the word of God. But isn't that what we've seen Tucker doing, Pastor Woods, bringing in all these people to push the Palestinianism, to go against those who are dispensationalists that believe in Bible prophecy? Has he not sought to bring in people and leverage the word of God out of context for what appears to be his own political agenda? Because by his own admission, I think we're about to hear he's not really a theologian, doesn't know much about the Bible, doesn't sound like. So why else would he be doing it if it's not for political points? I mean, isn't this the typical, I'm going to accuse you of what I'm doing myself? Isn't that what we're hearing from Tucker?
Yes, and I'm wondering, did Jim Wallace get the memo? Did Tony Campolo get the memo? Did the religious left? Did Barry Lynn, the Reverend Barry Lynn, Americans United for Separation Between Church and State, did he get the memo? So, what he's really saying is we don't want the scripture used to promote a narrative that's outside of his Christian Palestinian replacement theology narrative that he's promoting. I mean, that's really what he's saying there.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's continue.
I don't want to do that. And I attempt every time. This is all sort of new to me. I'm so obviously not a great Christian that it's not like a lot of people are going to be like, oh, I want to be like him. But there are people, particularly Christian ministers, I have noticed, who are preaching a political message and pretending that it's the gospel. So let me just say, and I think my theology is right, I'm hardly a theologian.
Whoa. They're preaching a political message and think it's the gospel. Wait a minute. Didn't Paul in Romans 11, a Jew of the tribe of Benjamin, a former Pharisee, say that we, the Gentiles, are to preach the gospel to them, to make them jealous? So isn't that what we're doing when we stand up for the fact that the promises to them are irrevocable? Come to repentance. God has a plan for the people. He's going to fulfill his Abrahamic covenant. There are wonderful things in store for you, the Jewish people, and he's going to give you everything he promised in Genesis 15. Aren't we actually dealing in the political and spiritual realm? Ezekiel 37, a political revival, the bones coming together, then a spiritual revival. You can't separate the political and the spiritual if you read Ezekiel 37, because they have to become a nation. That happened, as you and I both know, in 48. Nations can make covenants. They're going to make a covenant with the Antichrist. We have to have a nation. So you have to have the political aspect, but then you have to have the spiritual aspect. So again, I want to back that up just a little bit and play that part again, because I think he is totally missing the point. This is exactly for us what it's really all about. It is about the gospel, but he's accusing us of taking the gospel and turning it to political. I don't think you can separate the political and the spiritual. That would be a mistake. That's why we teach a biblical worldview for all areas of life. But I also don't think per Ezekiel 37, we can separate the political restoration of Israel as a nation and the spiritual revival to come that we are in favor of. Play that again, please.
Preaching a political message and pretending that it's the gospel. So let me just say, and I think my theology is right, I'm hardly a theologian.
Okay, stop right there. Dr. Woods?
Well, you hear this and you wonder who he's talking about, and you won't know until you get to the end of that 3-minute clip. What he's been out of shape about is Gaza. He's about the Israelis going into Gaza and rooting out Hamas out of Gaza. That's really the political situation that he's talking about. And he's confusing murder and killing. If somebody comes from Gaza, commits terrorist activity within Israel, as is what happened October the 7th, and then they hide in a hospital or they hide in an orphanage, or they hide between women and children. And the Israelis happen to take out that terrorist, and there happens to be collateral damage in the process. That's what he's upset about. He doesn't want that to happen. That's what he means by we're against murder. Well, that's not murder, that's killing. And if you're not going to allow the Israelis to do that because their enemies hide in hospitals, etc., then basically what you're saying is Israel can't defend herself. That's basically what he's arguing for. And he's upset with the rest of us that think the Israelis are doing the right thing, you know, by trying to root Hamas out of Gaza and taking collateral damage that happens to manifest itself as just part of the normal business of doing war. I mean, that's what he's upset about, and he doesn't like us, you know, quoting the Bible to justify what the Israelis are doing. So let's just kind of cut through the chase and get to what he's been out of shape about, and that's his bone of contention.
All right, let's keep going, please.
God is not on any country's side. Certain countries can decide to be on God's side, and that is true for people too. Okay? God doesn't have a partisan affiliation. He doesn't have a nationality. And if someone is telling you otherwise, that is just not true. It is not true. And I would also call your attention to the very obvious prohibitions in the New Testament against killing the innocent. We are not, as Christians, allowed to kill the innocent, period. We are not. And you see elaborate arguments on behalf of doing so or ignoring it. Oh, that always happens in war. Well, you're right. One of the reasons I'm not that into wars. But when it does happen, unavoidably, we have to say that's wrong. We have to say that. We have to acknowledge that was wrong. And I'm sorry for the extent to which I participated in it. Forgive me. Because killing people who committed no crime is immoral. It will always be immoral. And people who do it will be punished for it. And nations that endorse it will be punished for it. That's a fact. And you are seeing now a very intense effort to convince you otherwise. Oh, it's fine. They deserved it. Really, did their children deserve it? If a man commits a crime, do we kill his kids? I don't care if it's in Minneapolis or Gaza City. No, we don't. And if we do accidentally, we say, I am so sorry that we murdered someone who did nothing wrong, because it is murder.
All right, hold right there.
And to see Christian pastors.
There's the music. We'll come back. We'll have Dr. Woods respond. Now, if you have innocent people that get killed in war, that's bad. And Israel has had some of that happen, and they've apologized, but they also sought not to kill innocent people, told them to get out of the way, gave them time for that. They went in and got babies and put them in incubators and moved them out of Palestine. So I don't think that comes into play for Tucker, because I think he's, in my opinion, a propagandist, but we'll be right back. Do you appreciate all the free programming we produce here at Worldview Tube? Well, if you do, we need your partnership now. If you're already supporting us, thank you. If you're not, would you please consider doing so? We have to have a big November and December end of the year giving. Please go here right now to this website, worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. You can give through credit card. You can give through PayPal. You'll find our mailing address there if you prefer to support us through the mail. You'll also find our phone number. Simply use that phone number by leaving a voicemail for Melissa or texting her, and my wife will get back with you and help you make your contribution over the phone. We send out tax receipts with our EIN number, well, the first week of February of each year. We, again, have to have a very big November and December as we get ready for pushing out more Christian worldview programming for 2026. So thank you for going now to worldviewfoundation.com. That's worldviewfoundation.com. Okay, Dr. Woods, by the way, you'll notice during that speech by Tucker that the audience was very quiet. I mean, he goes on this long rant all over the map. Lots of straw man arguments, I think. And the audience is kind of quiet for the most part. It's just weird. And then, of course, Ben Shapiro came out. He made some good points, took some questions from the audience as well. But the whole thing seems so divisive, okay? Respond to this last clip, please, Dr. Woods.
Well, I think he has an agenda, and I'm not totally sure why he's even speaking at this event, because I don't think he represents the late Charlie Kirk's views. But, I listened to the clip. I really didn't know what he was talking about until he mentioned Gaza. Then I said, oh, that's what his issue is. And again, the problem he has is for the Israelis to root out terrorism out of Gaza when their enemies intentionally hide in hospitals and orphanages and hide behind the skirts of women and hide behind children. I mean, what do you do when your enemy does that? He's saying Israel should do nothing because it's going to result in the destruction of innocent life, which it will. And even though, as you pointed out, Israel drops leaflets, they give warnings, they tell innocent people to get out of harm's way, but this is the nature of Hamas. This is the nature of Islamic terror. This is what they do. And if you won't allow the Israelis to take out their enemies, what you're basically saying is, Israel, dissolve your army, dissolve your self-defense. You have no right to defend yourself. And scriptures like the book of Esther, for example, where the Israelis were allowed to carry weapons to defend themselves in the events surrounding what later became Purim. Those scriptures are out, because you notice he says, look at the New Testament. Nehemiah, where sword and trouble, I think is how you pronounce that, where they had a sword in one hand and they were building with the other. You'll see this in the book of Nehemiah. I think it's around Nehemiah chapter 4, the ability to defend yourself as you're building. That scripture's out. And he likes the New Testament so much. Hey, I'll give you a New Testament passage. It's in Luke's gospel. I think it's around chapter 22, where Jesus tells his disciples, do you have a sword? And they said no. And he said, sell your cloak and get a sword. One of the disciples said, I've got two. And Jesus says, that's enough. And that is something that's necessary. I would interpret it not as offensive, but something that's necessary for self-defense. And so when you're not allowed to take out the people in Gaza, in the southwestern portion of the Israeli map, quite frankly, who have an ambition to destroy you and launch a terrible attack against you October the 7th, which is the worst attack that the Israelis have experienced since the Holocaust, and you say you can't take out enemies because it might result in the death of innocent lives. Basically, what he's saying is, Israel, you can't defend yourself. And so all of this talk that he's giving here at this event, you can just cut through all of the nuance and just sum it up as follows. Israel, you cannot defend yourself, and we're going to use a twisted version of the New Testament to get you to acquiesce to this.
All right, let's go. Was that the full clip, guys? All right, let's go to the next one, please.
And what you're watching now, attacking millions of Americans because they're Muslims, it's disgusting. And I'm a Christian. I'm not a Muslim. I know there's a lot of effort to claim I'm a secret jihadi. I'm not. You should not attack people on those grounds. And you're seeing it from Republicans. What are you doing? What you're doing is trying to divide the country. And I've lived through 50 years of this. All these fake race wars that they're always promoting. Oh, go hate each other while we loot the treasury. That's exactly what's going on. And most people are totally sick of that. So yes, there is a possibility for a huge coalition of decent people once they free their minds from the traps set for them by others and realize, wait a second, we all want to make this country better. And the 15% or 30% who don't, okay. Good luck in Maryland or wherever you wind up. But the rest of us would like to fix it.
All right, so what do you make of that, Dr. Woods?
Well, I mean, he keeps saying we don't have a right to attack Muslims. Is that what we're doing? I mean, am I going around attacking Muslims? I mean, it's the other way around. I mean, I'm trying to defend myself in the midst of an Islamic growing ideology that basically wants to take me and wants to, subjugate me. So I don't even know, it's frustrating hearing, these guys do their rants because you don't know exactly, they don't give you a specific situation. I mean, don't go around attacking Muslims. Well, of course we agree with that. But what if the Muslims attack us? I mean, don't I have a right to defend my property, my wife, my daughter, my family from an Islamic attack? And so he's not giving me any specifics. He's just talking in generalities. And until he starts mentioning names, I have no idea what he's talking about. And I finally figured it out when he, at the end of that clip, used the word Gaza. Okay, he's again, I sound like a broken record, but he's upset that the nation of Israel is defending itself from Hamas by rooting out Hamas out of Gaza. That's what he doesn't like.
Okie dokie. Then we heard from Ben Shapiro. He got up there and he called all these guys out, from Steve Bannon to Tucker. He called them all out. Candace. Now, who do you think is really behind all this? I mean, everybody was so united in Trump's first term, going into his second term, even during the 4 years he was out of office. Everybody was so united. And it is almost like there was this coordinated propaganda effort to use Israel to divide the conservatives and Christians and constitutionalists and whatever you want to call the different groups and segments. And I happen to notice that some of the people that are doing this seem to be aligned with Islamists that fund their media empires and whatnot. So what do you think is ultimately going on here? Or is this also just a spiritual battle? Is this just Satan working to set up the Jews? Because at the end of the day, the Christians and the conservatives, the Christians and the Zionists, the Jews and the Zionists are really the ones that are, as I've said in other interviews, are the ones that kind of the pincher strategy. The Christians and the Jews, or I should say more accurately, the Christian Zionists and the Jews are the ones that end up, at the end of the day, being the ones that really are the losers here.
Yeah, I think it is intentional. I think it's been documented that the vast majority, a big chunk, let's put it that way, of the followers of Carlson or Carlson, whatever we're going to call him, and Candace Owens comes from foreign sources. I've heard a number of our right-wing pundits, bring that out. And so I think what they think is they're going to use these people to take the MAGA movement and split it. And the Israel issue is a great way to do it because they can say, oh, you guys really aren't America first. Look, you want to give deference to Israel. And they see this as sort of a tool or a weapon that they can use to take the MAGA movement and divide it. And so I believe that when Carlson, Owens, and all of these people are speaking, I believe that there's some kind of foreign influence behind them that is using this issue, this Israel issue, deliberately to take the MAGA movement and split it. It's a grand jihad from within. I would call it, cultural jihad. Remember that memo from the Muslim Brotherhood? We're gonna destroy their miserable house with their own hands. And I think what you're seeing is sort of the outworking of that.
Interesting. All right. What other issues do you want to talk about in this vein? I mean, why do you think the Turning Point USA group is even trying to court both these groups? I think in the end, they're destroying Turning Point USA. And then I guess, I don't even know if you have the clip, guys, but I guess Erica came out and said that I guess Turning Point's whole goal now is the election of JD Vance. Yeah. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
The whole point is now the election of my late husband's friend, JD Vance. To which I said to, my wife this morning, I thought a lot of these young people signed up to work with Turning Point because they wanted to be trained on how to contend for Judeo-Christian values, the traditional family, getting married, having children, the free market system. But now the point is the election of JD Vance, who didn't have anything nice to say for years about President Trump. I mean, just horrible things if you go back on the videos. Whose son, I think, works for JD Vance, interestingly enough, according to numerous reports. And who is right in there with the big tech bros. You know, I don't frankly trust JD Vance, but people can if that's what they want to do. You know, I have some people on this network, they just love him, and that's great. I don't tell them you can't be here on the network, you can't talk about. I don't do that to people, but I think JD Vance is when he's quoting and hanging out and praising some of these tech bros and Yarvin and other guys, I don't think that's not a good worldview I'm willing to embrace. But if that's what Turning Point wants to become, I said to my wife, I think this is a great way to have a lot of people say, oh, okay, this is not what I signed up for, and they're going to leave. Yeah. But apparently they announced last night that that's now the new point of Turning Point is the election of JD Vance as president. Dumb, in my opinion.
Yeah. Okay, let's just think about this for a minute. Our goal is to elect JD Vance. Okay, did you just throw out the primary process? I mean, I thought we had a primary process here in the United States of America. Are we just going to bypass that? I mean, the primaries is where the differences between the Republicans are supposed to come to the surface. That's the whole point of it. And one of the things about JD Vance, and don't get me wrong, there's a lot of things about JD Vance that I really like, but JD Vance, as far as I can tell, does not have the same stance on Israel that I have. I mean, and you have, Brandon. This is the guy that went over there and basically said, you know, Israel's symbolic vote in the Knesset, I guess it was, to annex Judea and Samaria. He said that's dumb, that's stupid. He used those kind of words. He said, I'm personally offended or insulted by it. And I'm like thinking to myself, and then he says it's the official position of the Trump administration, you know, for Israel not to annex Judea and Samaria. And I'm thinking to myself, what? That's the official position of the Trump administration? That's not what I voted for 3 times. I don't recall Donald Trump ever running on that. And beyond that, if this is what JD Vance thinks, I want this information to come out in the primaries, and I'm going to support somebody else, because what he just said about the dividing of the land of Israel, to my mind, is an insult to God himself. God says, don't divide my land. There he is right there arguing for a division of the land, saying Israel can't annex the so-called West Bank. And I thought the whole point of the primary process was to bring out these issues. And for Turning Point to just kind of leapfrog that, you know, kind of paper it over and say our whole mission is to elect JD Vance, I'm like thinking, hold the phone here. If that's what Turning Point thinks, I don't know if I'm on board with the mindset of Turning Point.
Wow. So do you agree with me that if Turning Point continues on this path, they're likely going to see themselves greatly decline as an organization? Because I think they are. I'll get your comments on that on the other side. And we'll go to other Middle East update stories with Dr. Andy Woods of andywoodsministries.org. We'll be right back.
Introducing the Sentry Wellness System, the ultimate under-sink water treatment solution designed with you in mind. Say goodbye to harmful toxins and hello to water enriched with essential nutrients like calcium and magnesium. Enjoy the benefits of increased pH for on-demand alkalinity, all from a zero-waste system that fits seamlessly into your home. Installation is a breeze, taking just 15 minutes, so you can have clean, healthy, great-tasting water straight from your tap. Perfect for apartments, homes, rentals, and even RVs. Elevate your hydration and well-being with the Sentry Wellness System, because you deserve the best in every drop.
Sentry H2O. Tap into wellness.
You're watching Worldview 2, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brannon House.
All right, welcome back. Dr. Woods, do you think that if they continue down this path, that Turning Point USA will basically, at the end of the day, just be a political organization, cease to be what Charlie was trying to do with it?
Well, I think if they push, like you say, hey, our whole purpose is to elect JD Vance, and they skirt over or leapfrog a major issue, which is whether who owns Judea and Samaria, they're going to alienate their conservative base, because this is not what conservatives believe. I mean, it's not what Reagan believed in the Reagan Revolution. It's certainly not what Trump, ever promoted in the 3 times, that he's run for president. And I think a good primary process will bring this to the surface. And if they're just going to leapfrog that and pretend like this issue is not a real issue, I see a lot of pro-Zionist, pro-Israel conservative types like myself and yourself, really wanting nothing to do with Turning Point USA. And so I just don't understand how a decision like that is going to help them.
Mm-hmm.
And one other thing, Tucker kept saying, God is not the God of a nation. He kept saying that over and over again. Genesis 33, verse 20, and keep in mind, it's the book of Genesis we start getting the names of God. There's about 7 or 8 names of God all the way through the book of Genesis, and one of them is as follows. It says, there he, that's Jacob, erected there an altar and called it Elohi Israel. And that's the first time God uses the name for himself, the God of Israel. So when he says God is not the God of a nation, I'm wondering, has Tucker Carlson ever read the Bible? I mean, God says, I am the God of Israel. I am the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He doesn't condone everything Israel does. He chastises them routinely throughout his word. But at the end of the day, God is a Zionist, and his goal in history is to protect and sustain the nation of Israel, and one day in the kingdom age fulfill all his covenantal promises in and through the nation of Israel. So when Tucker Carlson just glibly says God is not the God of a nation, what Bible is he reading, if he's reading it at all?
Very good point. All right, I said that, everywhere we turn today, there's division, right? Everywhere we turn, there's division. I know as a pastor, you probably fight people coming into your church, trying to hijack your church, change your church's theology, eschatology, and create division in your church. Everywhere we turn, there's division. I mean, if we open up the phone lines, people can start telling us about, the places where there are division, where there didn't used to be division, and in places where there was just like, people would come together as Americans under common values and everybody got along. But now everything's politicized. Everything is created so there's division. I happen to wonder if what we're really seeing here is that this is God's judging of the country. And I happen to think that the more Donald Trump pushes telling us he's going to create a 2-state solution, we're going to divide Israel, we're going to create a special force in Gaza that we control, America controls, we are going to develop. Then we're going to create an international force to oversee Gaza. So basically, again, taking land from Israel and putting it under the control of an international group. Then he tells Israel, I've told them they are not going to, occupy Judea and Samaria. They're not going to be allowed to have that solely on their own as Jewish people, Jewish state. And the more he blabs and talks like that, notice the more divisive the country becomes, the more division there is in the country. It's kind of like God saying, okay, you want to divide my land, my people, I'm going to divide your people. And every day I wake up, I see more and more division. Now, again, I don't want to sound anti-Trump because I agree with a lot of things he's doing, but the man is his own worst PR guy. Now I wake up to the idea he's going to name the Kennedy Center, the Trump Kennedy Center. I'm like, why do you have to put your name on everything? Trump RX, Trump this, Trump that. Can you knock it off with the narcissism? Can you just stop with the narcissism and just be the president? Your thoughts?
Well, I watched this pattern unfold under the first Bush. I mean, he came back from the Persian Gulf War with think of this, a 90% approval rating. And we know how that election turned out. Bill Clinton was elected. So what happened? His coalition got divided. Why did it get divided? You ever ask yourself that? Between himself and Ross Perot giving Clinton the majority vote in the popular vote and the Electoral College. It's because his coalition got divided. Have you asked yourself that? Why did his coalition get divided? How do you go from 90% to losing? Because your coalition is divided. Why did it get divided? I think the answer is pretty simple. The first Bush tried to divide the land of Israel. He started to, push no loan guarantees for the Jews until they acquiesced to giving up this and giving up that. And I think at that point, God put Genesis 12, verse 3 into place. And God says, you try to divide my land. I just divided your coalition between you and Ross Perot, emptying out, 20 to 30% of the vote, giving the election to the least qualified president we've ever elected, a man from a very small country, state, Arkansas. I think it was Ross Perot says, I've got more, running a Walmart, gives you more experience to be president than running Arkansas. But somehow this unheralded, very unqualified, very young, very no-name governor became president because G.H.W. Bush divided the land of Israel. And I wish Trump had some people around him that could explain this reality to him, because to me it looks like he's going the same direction. And you're right, the more he talks like this, the worse the poll numbers get. The more everybody is now predicting that the Republicans are going to lose the House. They're not going to do well in the midterms. They didn't do well in the last mini election cycle that we just had. And Trump needs to, if I could give him any advice at all, he needs to change course on Israel. He needs to support a united Israel. He needs to quit pressuring Israel constantly to make the folks at Qatar happy because they gave him an airplane and they're going to enter into the Abraham Accords, etc. He needs to ignore those people, and he needs to let the Israelis do what they need to do to root out terrorism in Gaza. And if he went this direction, I think the Trump administration would be smooth sailing for them. But unfortunately, they're not moving this direction.
So what you're telling me is that more than likely God is not happy with Trump or his party and his administration.
Well, God is not happy with anyone that tries to divide his land. It doesn't matter if they're Republican, Democrat.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
It's Joel 3, verse 2. And look, I voted for Trump 3 times. He's done some wonderful things. But the problem is what he's doing right now is he's touching the apple of God's eye. And God is not going to look favorably at anyone. I don't care what their party affiliation is. And if they happen to be right on a bunch of other issues, he's not going to look favorably at anyone who does that. And I think history, bears that out. And I don't see in the Bible where the promises, I'll curse those that curse you. I don't see where those are. I don't see a statute of limitations on those. I think God announced a universal principle that he will enforce against anyone, whether it's Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, Rome, Hitler's Third Reich, G.H.W. Bush, Donald Trump, Joe Biden, whoever it is, God is going to enforce his principles because he can't lie.
Indeed. All right, let's go toward the issue of Gog Magog. I think we have a article here I want to bring up real quick that you sent me. Israel unveils iron beam laser while achieving record $15 billion arms sales. How does this fit in with Gog Magog?
Well, one of the things that is predicted in the pages of God's word is not that the Israelis would be brought back into their land in unbelief in preparation for the end of the age, but they would become wealthy. And when you look at Ezekiel 37, verse 10, it says they will become an exceedingly great army. Now, this is not a millennial prediction because there's no need for an army in the millennium because there'll be world peace. They'll beat their swords into plowshares, neither will they learn nor study of war anymore, etc. This is, I believe, talking about the condition of Israel on the eve of these end times events. And so a headline like that, where they can now shoot down missiles, projectiles, what does it say? It gives how far away they are, 6 miles away, maybe more, at the expense of $2 per interception. The fact that they have this technology and they're now exporting this technology to allies all over the world, including the United States of America. I can't help but think of Ezekiel 37, verse 10, because this is the kind of thing that God said would happen at the end of the age.
All right, let's go to another article here that you've sent me. Talk about. It's this one right here. Troublemaker Israel is greater regional threat than Iran, says Prince Turki al-Faisal. That's of Qatar. So Israel is a greater, but yet we're going to let them have a base. Trump's going to let them come in and set up shop in Idaho. And by the way, and again, his family is apparently in a relationship with Qatar, right? And building over there.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just waiting for God to say, I'm sorry, Mr. Trump and family, you have cursed Israel, and watch the whole family enterprises, see what's going to happen to them. But I do notice today, according to one report, that apparently their family business is throwing in with artificial intelligence and energy and what looks like maybe data centers or something. Have you seen that, by the way?
I have not, but, it doesn't surprise me. Our mutual friend, Patrick Wood, would be the guy that would be up to speed on all that kind of stuff. But can you believe the absolute stupidity of that news article or the headline saying that Israel is a greater threat to stability in the region than Iran? Are you kidding me? Iran, the #1 state sponsor of terror around the world, is somehow less of a threat than Israel. I mean, it's a transforming David into Goliath, kind of propaganda strategy. And by the way, the Oxford Debating Society, supposedly the smartest people in the world, where all the leadership into the UK comes from, they reached the same conclusion, that Israel is a greater threat to stability in the region than the terrorist state, the Shiite Islamic theocracy, Iran itself. And it just shows you the time period that we're living in, where people have lost their sanity. They've lost their rational faculties. It's what Zechariah 12 predicts. People would be in a state of drunkenness, which is dealing with someone in an inebriated state, spiritually speaking, that can't think straight. To make some kind of ridiculous statement like that somehow Israel is a greater threat to, stability in the region than the #1 state sponsor of terror. I read headlines like that, and sometimes I just can't believe what I'm reading.
1-800-347-9829. Phone line's now open. 1-800-347-9829. We'll be right back.
News is moving faster than ever, and so are we. Worldview Tube brings you 24/7 live stream coverage and now real-time alerts when it matters most. Once you have the Worldview Tube app installed, exit the app and navigate your way to Settings. In Settings, locate the tab labeled Notifications. Select the Notifications tab. Scroll down until you locate the Worldview Tube app icon. Select the tab, and here you can turn on and customize your notification experience for the Worldview Tube app. News doesn't wait, and neither should you. Turn on push notifications to stay informed. Every headline as it happens.
You're watching Worldview 2, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brannon House.
All right, 1-800-347-9829, 1-800-347-9829. Here's the headline from Newsbreak. Trump goes nuclear. The president's tech and media umbrella will merge with a fusion reactor developer in a deal valued north of $6 billion. His media companies announced this. The deal will create one of the first publicly traded nuclear fusion companies in the United States and marks the President Donald Trump's entry into a highly regulated nuclear energy sector. And it goes on from there, talk about what they're doing and the funds they're raising. I thought there was something in here about streaming as well. Let me see. Streaming, S-E-R. Yep. The company also recently diversified beyond its core social media platform into cryptocurrency, artificial intelligence, and streaming services. So, I don't know. I don't think this goes well either for the midterms when a lot of people see what's going on with the family business and business deals. I mean, I guess, if they follow the rules and follow the laws, it's, everybody can do what they want under the law if you're following the laws. But I don't know. The whole thing just leaves a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth. And if you're going to be pushing the tech bros and data centers and this and that, and then your family business, from what it looks like, is going to go into the artificial intelligence and streaming services, it makes one wonder what's going on here. I don't know. Can we just concentrate on the country, please? I mean, run a business or run the country. But people say, well, he's not running these businesses. His kids are. Okay. Oh, that's fine. You believe that. Maybe he is. I don't know. Just the whole thing to me is a PR problem. Nonstop PR problem. Nonstop distractions. Headlines we don't need. Reports we don't need. You didn't see Ronald Reagan doing this kind of thing. Let's go to the phone lines. Mark, line one. Mark, thank you for calling in today, Mark.
Hey, Brandon. You had mentioned not that long ago about Mike Huckabee.
Yep.
And he seems to be unusually silent right now, and not that Trump is taking heed to what he says or not. I'm just kind of wondering, since he's the ambassador over there, I haven't heard much of anything with his involvement.
Well, that's interesting, isn't it? And of course, I don't know. My guess would be that he's, it's politics, folks. It's politics. And I think his daughter wants to run for higher office, president. And so he's going to have to play his cards carefully. But that would be my guess. Dr. Woods, your thoughts?
Well, I concur with the caller. I mean, I'm wondering, where is Huckabee? Because I know he doesn't agree with these stuff he said before. He doesn't agree with these, division of Israel and, bashing Israel because they happen to take out, they're in Doha, one of the masterminds of October the 7th. And all of these kinds of things that you see the Trump administration doing. I know Huckabee doesn't agree with those sentiments. And so I wonder where he is. He's a cabinet member. It's almost like his voice has been suppressed as the Trump administration of recent has moved in this direction.
Let's go to Jim, line 4. Hi, Jim. Thanks for calling in.
Thank you, gentlemen, for this program today. I'll take the information that you've been talking about. As soon as I'm done with this call, I'll be contacting my congressman, who's supposed to be a Christian, and tell President Trump to stop working to divide Israel and also get out of the relationship with Qatar. Been in part of several different Facebook groups, and one of them pro-Trump, MAGA group, and I've seen this alarming trend that their anti-Zionism's coming out. I keep telling them Genesis 12:3, Genesis 12:3. So I'm doing what I can. Thank you, gentlemen.
Well,
appreciate
that's all. Well, we appreciate you, Jim. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And of course, people are saying, well, these aren't the Jews of the Bible. And that's the Khazar theory, which I just dealt with on Sunday night in part 4 in the final part of my series on why I'm a Christian Zionist, which we're putting into a book, which will go automatically into the vault. So you don't have to buy it at worldviewtube.com/vault. But this again is what a lot of these folks are buying. There's so many lies out there, and the people are buying them. And a lot of people don't know about replacement theology. They don't understand why this brand of Christianity has now become so dominant, and they don't know about replacement theology. And when you explain it to them, I've had folks, including on camera, go, well, that solves a mystery. I didn't realize that was so dominant in evangelical Christianity now. But that's not what the Bible teaches. And my answer is, you're exactly right. That's not what the Bible teaches. And not unless you want to rip the Bible out of context and allegorize it, then it does. To them, it makes sense, but not according to the Bible, really in context. No. Line 2, Sam, line 2. Thank you for calling in, Sam.
Yes, good afternoon, gentlemen. Yeah, I concur with Dr. Woods of Israel should not be divided by the law of God. But and the first caller had mentioned about Ambassador Huckabee. Can't you get a hold of him, Brandon, or tell him if he doesn't do that, he should resign?
I have texted back and forth with him. I have his private cell number, and I've texted back and forth with him a little bit. We've invited him on the program, but yeah, I mean, they can only do so much. But wasn't Huckabee over there in Israel with those 1,000 pastors? So he did just do that, which is taking a lot of criticism, Dr. Woods.
Yeah, I wasn't aware that Huckabee was there, but I am aware of Mike Evans was there. I don't know everything there is to know about Mike Evans, but he gave a tremendous speech there in Shiloh, which is in, if I remember right, that's in the Judea and Samaria, in the so-called West Bank area. That, by the way, is where the Ark was incubated or held for 369 years, in between the conquest and then finally the building of the first temple under Solomon in 966 BC. In between those two, that's where the Ark was, there in Shiloh for 369 years. And Vance is saying Israel doesn't have a right to annex that. I mean, first of all, Israel already owns that. Mm-hmm. And that's what the Mike Evans speech, I think we're talking about the same thing, brings up. And I thought it was just outstanding what he said.
And here's the headline from CBN News. Huckabee commissions 1,000 pastor army at Ambassadors Summit to stand with Israel. So he was there. He was there. He was speaking at it. He spoke to them. So there we go. We know he's involved in that. All right, I think there's the music right there. AndyWoodsMinistries.org, AndyWoodsMinistries.org. And again, stay tuned for Crosstalk coming up at the top of the hour on over 100 outlets nationwide. We'll be back, Lord willing, Monday and Tuesday. And then I guess we'll be gone for about 10 days for the Christmas break. But we intend to be back Monday and Tuesday, unless I'm told otherwise. But again, hope you'll stay tuned for Crosstalk at vcy.org, V as in Victor, vcy.org. All right, thanks for watching, for listening, and may God save America and Israel. Take care. And we're back on WROS out of Jacksonville, Florida, and you here on Worldview Tube. All right, Dr. Woods, what other big issue do you have that you're concerned about in the Middle East?
Well, I did find something on X that I found to be very interesting, and it has to do with the presence of Putin now in the Sudan. And of course, you know, the reason that is such a big deal is because the Sudan and Rosh, or Russia, are portrayed in Ezekiel 38 and 39 as invading Israel in the last days. And so if that's going to happen, and it is, then it stands to reason that Russia would start to have more of a presence in North Africa. This comes from a Twitter feed of someone named Mario Nafal. And he writes, and he sources this in the Wall Street Journal, Sudan's military regime has offered Moscow its first naval base in Africa, a 25-year deal that would give Russia direct access to the Red Sea and critical trade routes. The base in Port Sudan would allow Russia to dock nuclear-powered warships, host up to 300 troops, and project power from the Suez Canal to the Indian Ocean. In return, Sudan's isolated generals get advanced Russian weapons to fuel their civil war, and Moscow gets a geopolitical prize it's chased for years. This isn't just about ships. It's about Putin carving out new influence in Africa after Wagner's collapse and Western pressure in Ukraine. I look at something like that as massively prophetically significant for reasons I've already tried to explain, and very few headlines have picked this up.
Wow, All right. By the way, we had a great panel last night. You were invited, but you were busy. We had on
I did.
JB Hickson and Brandon Holthouse, and we had huge numbers on that. Big numbers. And they're still going up, aren't they, Logan? Yep. Is it at Worldview Tube? It's there for folks to watch. WorldviewTube.com, WorldviewTube.com. All right, we're going to try to do regular panels like that because our audience just ate it up and they were asking for more of that. So we're going to try to do more of that. We'll invite you to the next one with those guys because I'm sure you know both those guys.
Well, yeah, it gets confusing. I have my friend Brandon House, and then I have my friend Brandon Holthouse. So I may need a little tutorial on how to keep you guys straight.
I know. JB kept saying Brandon last night. I'm thinking, well, I like what Brandon said. I'm like, wait a minute, is he meaning me or him? And he's calling me Brandon because most people call me Brandon. So, yeah, I even got a little confused. Which one of us is he talking about? But anyway, it was a great broadcast. It's at worldviewtube.com. All right. I guess we're off next Friday. So Merry Christmas to you and your family. But if there's breaking news, we're going to be going back on. We'll come back in and go back on. So if there's breaking news, we'll be back and invite you with us if there's anything going on. But other than that, I wish you and your family a very Merry Christmas.
Yeah. Thank you, and happy 27th wedding anniversary to my wife.
Oh, that's right. I meant to mention that myself. Your wedding anniversary, 27 years.
Who is my wife, best friend, producer, you name it. She's it. Best thing that ever happened to me other than my conversion to Christianity.
That's really sweet. What did you get her for her anniversary present?
Well, dare I say?
I don't know. Do you?
She wants our ground floor. We've got some tile on there that she hasn't, some carpeting that hasn't been she hasn't been real happy with it. So we're going to tear out all that and put in some wood paneling. And she said, can I have that for my anniversary present? And I said yes without even looking at the price tag. So
good for you.
There you
Good
go.
Man.
There you go.
Plus, you're getting to give her a gift, and it's adding value to your house. So overall, you're winning big time. Melissa and I do the same thing. We almost everything we do gift wise is related to the home because we both like that, right? And your home is your castle, right? It's where you spend your time anyway.
And that's in addition to the flowers and out to dinner and everything else. So
there you go. There you go. Happy anniversary.
Thank you.
All right, guys, that's our broadcast. Hey, do you appreciate what we're doing here? We appreciate your support. WorldviewFoundation.com. WorldviewFoundation.com. Don't forget about us in your end of the year giving. You'll find our mailing address there as well, WorldviewFoundation.com, and the phone number on the screen as well. Leave a voicemail or a text from Melissa. She'll get back to you, help you make that contribution, and we'll send you a tax receipt with our EIN number by the end of January of 2026 as well. We are a church, and so by IRS rules, we are automatically a nonprofit. Okay? So there you go. Until tomorrow, or later tonight, actually. Worldview Report and Brandon House Live. Till then, I'm Brandon House. Thanks for watching. Take care.
You're watching Worldview 2, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brandon House.